Hi, I'm KL Wong and I'm the founder of HelloPal. Here, I'm going to give you an introduction to our company. So first, let me give you an overview. As for myself, I was born in Malaysia. I studied in the UK since 13. I read law in university. I then moved to Hong Kong. I spent many years there, 16 years, where I was a lawyer. I was with a .com company. I did venture capital investment with SoftBank for several years. And then I was an entrepreneur in early education. I then left Hong Kong to come to Hangzhou about 4.5 years ago. And I started working on HelloPal around 2014. Our HelloPal app was launched in May 2015, and we have now around 2.3 million registered users. In May last year, 2016, we did a reverse takeover and acquired listed status on the Canadian Stock Exchange. And our team's now based in 4 places: in China, Hangzhou, where I am right now, in Hong Kong, where our original team was, in Ukraine, Kharkiv, and in Vancouver. Before I talk about our apps, I'd first like to talk about our mission, which underlines all our apps, as you'll see. And our mission is to bring the world closer together. And you'll see this as the common theme throughout everything that we do. So firstly, let me talk about our main app, HelloPal. HelloPal is basically a social app that allows you to do 2 things. First, it allows you to very easily find people from all over the world. And secondly, once you've found them, it allows you to communicate with them very, very easily. This is an app that we launched on Google Play in 2015, in May, and later on iOS App Store in November. We now have 2.3 million registered users in around 200 countries and territories all over the world. So HelloPal allows you to match yourself with pals from all over the world. So here's our app. So first thing you need to do is just press add to find someone, and the first thing you'll see are these filters. So you can filter by gender, male, female. You can filter by the languages they speak or what they're learning, their nationality, their location, their age group, as well as their interests. So let's say I'm looking for females in, let's say, Japan. So females in Japan, press OK, and then it'll search and it'll show me all females who are in Japan. And I'll just choose one, the first one. All these people are currently online. So I'll choose one and I'll start a chat with her. So now I don't speak Japanese, but here you see there are different modes I can use to speak with her. I could, if I spoke Japanese, I would start typing Japanese, or I could send audio messages. But because I don't speak Japanese, I will use our phrase books. So this is a Japanese phrase book split into different categories. So for example, basic category, it shows me hello, and it tells me that to say hello, it's konnichiwa, and I could play it back.
Konnichiwa.
So I could even play back slowly.
Konnichiwa.
And once I've got that, what I do is I just hold this down. Konnichiwa. I could just play it back.
Konnichiwa.
And if I'm happy with that, I'll just send it off. And I've said hello to someone in Japan literally within minutes. Let's say something else. So for example, pleasure to meet you. Okay? And the way you say it.
お会いできて嬉しいです。お会いできて嬉しいです。
And I would just mimic that and say, お会いできて嬉しいです. And I would send it off. So I've said hello and nice to meet you. in Japanese to someone in Japan within literally minutes. And by the way, here's a very interesting feature, which I personally love because it helps language learners especially. So what you see up there is, so what you want to say is pleasure to meet you. And then it tells you, Owai dekite ureshi desu. And then the Japanese characters. But the last line also shows you a literal translation of what you're actually saying. So Japanese has a very interesting sentence structure. And what you're saying is actually, it tells you, to meet, be able to, happy I am. So that's actually what you're saying when you say, Owai dekite ureshi desu. And that's when I first concluded that Yoda's language actually probably comes from Japanese because his structure is so alike. So we have many different phrase books in many different languages and also translated into many different languages for each phrase book. So basically we can cater to, let's say, a French person who wants to speak in Korean, for example. He'll have the Korean phrase book translated into French for him. Now, of course, phrase books are limited by definition in terms of the number of phrases they can speak. So, but if you want to say something that's not covered in the phrase books, then you just type it out and you use our translation engines, which are also built in. They not only give you translation back, but they also give you the audio. They can similarly listen to it and repeat after it to say it back. And some other features, you can send photos, and we can also make audio and video calls, live video and audio chats. And also we could also play some language games. That's an option here, where, for example, if you are both learning the same language, you could actually play a game where you test out each other. Fun thing to do, and which helps you learn the language at the same time. We've also recently launched Moments, which is something like Facebook's feed, where you see different posts, what we call moments, posted by different people. So for example, the first one is by a Russian girl who has tagged the location to Seoul in Korea. And she even posted a bit in Korean. What do you think of my appearance, she says. And then the girl in China, someone from Turkey, from the UK, Russia, Poland, US. There's someone from Korea. So I don't have to start a conversation with you, and I can directly interact with you already by leaving you a like, leaving a comment on your post. And the great thing about this is that it allows users to get a window to the rest of the world. And for example, if I wanted to know what's the food like in Seoul or in the whole of Korea, I would use the filters, and I can filter by language, especially, and location, and categories are the most important. So location, I would put in Korea or Seoul or whichever part of the world I want, and I would select food, and I could look at all the different moments that have been posted by, could be locals or could be tourists there, who show food in that particular area. Okay, so this is our total user numbers. This is actually a bit old. We've already gone past 2.3 million. And this is the graph showing our accumulated new users over time. And right now we are hitting about between 8 to 10,000 new users, new registered users a day. We're not talking about downloads, but we're talking about people who've not only downloaded the app, but who have registered as members. So what we found after launching Hello Pal was that the people who like our app can be generally categorized into three groups. The first is social/dating. And these are people who aren't necessarily interested in learning a language, but who just want to meet foreign people from particular countries maybe. And for example, it could be someone who's been watching Korean soap opera and who's interested in Korean culture and wants to meet Koreans. So that's the social group. Then there's the language learning group, people who are actually already starting to learn the language and who want to find people to practice with. It could be natives, it could be fellow language learners. That's the language learning group. And the third group are the travelers. So people who typically want to meet locals before they travel there. And we soon came to the conclusion that our app, just one app, could not really satisfy the needs of each of these groups. So soon after launch, we decided to have a different strategy. Instead of just having one Hello Pal app, we decided to have, well, firstly, three different apps to cover the three different sectors that we talked about, as well as one more app to cover translation in general, because that actually helps all three areas. So there would be Hello Pal to cover social, Learning Pal to cover language learning, Travel Pal to cover travel, and Translate Pal to cover translation. So firstly, Travel Pal. We actually launched this app in the beginning of this year, and it's what I call social traveling. It enables people to travel more easily, but also, much more importantly, travel more socially. So instead of just doing sightseeing, what we want to foster is people traveling and getting to know local people much more. So here's our Travel Pal app, and you can see that I've put down, places that I'm interested in traveling to, Toronto, Vancouver, Hong Kong. I can add as many as I want. Here, well, it shows me popular destinations that different people go to. And here it shows me recommended hosts. So here are different hosts, potential hosts in Vancouver, some in Hong Kong, and some in Toronto. And depending on what I chose as the countries or the places I'm interested in, it'll just show up here. And these icons show what these people can provide. So this person here, for example, can provide accommodation. They're happy to go out, meet up for a meal, take me around as a tour guide, or just chat and give me ideas. Here it even shows me different travel partners, people who are going to the same place. So I can check out and see when they're going. I could just message them and see, whether they'd like to go together, travel together. Now, if I can't travel, if I don't have time to travel, I could also very easily act as a host. So here I've put down where I can host, Hangzhou. I've also put down Hong Kong as somewhere not that I can host in terms of accommodation, but somewhere because I'm very familiar with it, I can give advice about. And these are different people who are traveling to Hangzhou. So I can see when exactly they're traveling. I could send them an invite to travel. And if they accept it, then there'll be a trip booking that's booked. And once that's finished, we leave reviews for each other, for other people to see. And we just build up our own credibility and our own trustworthiness on the platform. And like Hello Pal, it contains all the tools that you saw before. I could also simply quickly search for different people all over the world. I could use phrase books to chat with them, except now there are dedicated travel phrase books to help me chat to potential hosts and travelers. So phrases such as, is your place available on so-and-so date? can I stay for X number of days, that sort of phrases. So this slide, just a recap. If you're traveling, you can very easily get help from locals. It could be finding a place to stay. It could be finding people to have a meal with or to take you around, or just simply giving you advice. And if you don't want to travel alone, you could find travel partners possibly to the same place. And if you can't travel altogether, then you let travelers come to you and you act as a host. The next app we would like to launch is Translate Pal, and we're hoping to do that probably sometime within next year. And it's what I call social translations. Now, machine translations like Google Translate, they are getting better every day. And between certain languages, they are pretty good, probably even indistinguishable from human translations. But for languages like, Eastern languages and Western languages, translation between these languages tend to be still very hit or miss. And this is when human input is really, really valuable. And with our user base of people all over the world, many of whom are bilingual, trilingual, or at least native speakers, what we hope to do is to have people help each other to correct language, to help them with their translations, to say, okay, this is not quite right. It actually means this. And this allows people not only to get more accurate translations, but also to meet people in the process. And so people will also be incentivized to do this, to not only to meet people, but we will also create a platform eventually where professional translators can translate for a fee. They first translate for free, build up credibility, build up a reputation, and then the platform will allow them to earn money by translating for people. And the last app we would launch in this series would be Learning Pal in the field of language learning. And like the others, it would have a very heavy social component to it, where people learn languages as they socialize with others. And the reason why we are leaving this till the last is because it's a very, very competitive area, and with many, many players in the field. So when we go in, we want to make sure that all the other apps are there, the users are there, so that we have something unique that we will bring to the table. So one of the good things about this strategy is that we see a lot of synergy between the apps. So just to give an example, someone who's interested in Korean culture wants to meet Korean people, then HelloPal is all he or she will need. Then because he started to meet them and he now wants to travel to Korea, and TravelPal would be the best app to help him do that. And he's so into Korea now that he wants to learn Korean, and that's when he would use Learning Pal. And throughout this entire process, it would be backed up by translation services and help from the Translate Pal platform, which is integrated into each of those apps as well as its own standalone app. So something which I didn't mention just now. So within HelloPal or TravelPal or Learning Pal, if I'm talking to someone else, I could just hit a button if the translation's not up to scratch, and that sentence or phrase would be submitted to the entire Translate Pal platform, and people from all apps actually would have the opportunity to see that request and to answer my request for a better translation. So this slide shows what we see happening, where we have 4 different apps in 4 different areas, each app pulling its own distinct crowd. So TravelPal pulling travel users, TranslatePal pulling the translation users, Learning Pal, the language learning. So, but after having pulled them in, because of the synergistic effects of each app, we see people moving across the apps. So each app basically feeds into each other. And one thing to note is that even though we have different apps, we just have one HelloPal platform where you are just a HelloPal member, regardless of which app you came through. Just like as a Google member, Google user, I use the same login credentials for all Google services. So likewise here. The reason why we think this multiple app strategy is crucial is because the key factor to success, especially for social apps, is to reach critical user mass. Now, I could try to reach that critical mass with just one app. So for example, if I were to just do a social travel app, the problem is I'm only limited to the travel crowd, and it's much more difficult for me to get to a critical mass with just users from one particular sector. Of course, it can be done, but just much more difficult. But if, on the other hand, we were to combine the user base from 4 different sectors, 4 very interrelated sectors, we now stand a much better shot at reaching critical mass. So for example, when we launched TravelPal, we didn't start from zero. We hit the ground running with already 2.3, well, at that time it was about maybe 1.8 million users as potential hosts. So we found that that's helped tremendously getting TravelPal up and running, where we don't start like a deserted place. And that applies to all the new apps that we would also launch. We launch not from zero, but already with a mass of users on the platform already. And we think that this is a very unique strategy that I've never seen done before by anyone else, but which I think makes perfect sense. And this is how I see things playing out, which is already the experience after having launched TravelPal. So each app contributes its own users. And well, each app, theoretically, we should already see this sort of hockey stick curve. But even if we don't, each new app adds on its own users to create this effect. I believe we are also capitalizing on current trends right now. And of course, we already know trends with mobile apps, with the growth of messaging apps, and with e-learning and mobile learning. But the one that I want to point out the most is that of globalization, where whether you like it or not, we are increasingly having to cater to an international audience, an international market. China is now going, all over the world, for example, and other countries are also trying to expand not only to China, but to other areas as well, like India, Vietnam, South America. So especially with the growth of technology and the interconnectedness of the world, this globalization trend will only continue. And, we are right in the middle of that. So we believe we are in the right place at the right time. Here, I'd like to talk about a company that does an app which is a bit similar to ours in some ways, called Momo. In a sense, we are an international version of Momo. So Momo is a social app in China that caters to Chinese users, allowing Chinese users to meet new friends. And they listed on NASDAQ in 2014, and very soon achieved a valuation of over 2 to 3 billion. I think now it's way more than that by now. And one of the special points about it was that it turned profitable very, very soon after it started charging revenue. So it's been doing extremely well. I think by now it's way over 100 million monthly active users. And again, some people see us as a potential international version of Momo. A lot of our strategies, our potential revenue models actually come from Momo, or we can refer to Momo as a platform that has given us a proven business model, proven revenue model, and a proven market demand for a lot of these things that we're doing. And speaking of revenue models, so the ones that I've listed here actually only apply to HelloPal, our social app. And again, like I said, a lot of these are very similar to what Momo does, which are fully applicable to our app. So for example, VIP membership, where you pay monthly or yearly membership to enable you to have full features, like full phrase books, no limits in translations, full filters available to you. That's also advertising and sponsorship, obviously. In-app purchases, like stickers, which is something that's huge in the Asian community. And we also have very specific revenue profit models that would be applicable to each of the other apps. So language learning give us a ton more of potential revenue models. Travel, especially, working with all the entire travel industries, hotels, airlines, etc. Translation too, with so many online translation agencies out there, making a lot of money with a very high valuation. A lot of these would also be applicable to our app. Although we've been focused more on user numbers, we have started to implement a revenue model. We've started working on it already, and we hope to have it introduced sometime this year, actually. So why is what we're doing not so easy for others to do? Well, I think if you were to do this well, you firstly require an expertise in both language education and technology. And secondly, you need to have an international background where you are familiar with both the Western world and the Chinese world. So this is not something that's that easy to do for example, a US company or for a Chinese company. But with us, we feel we have that background. We previously, with my previous company, Brill Kids, we did education, a lot of language aspects, which have come in very, very useful into HelloPal. With technology, because we were a software-driven company doing apps as well. And our team has a very international background. I myself I'm very fluent, very familiar with both the Chinese and the Western backgrounds, having lived in many different places. So just a quick word about our team, myself, who I've briefly spoken about already. Very importantly, we have our team Hans Xu, who's one of our major shareholders and who's been an angel investor and supporter since day one. He's a good friend of mine, and he actually was the founder of a mobile games company during my time with SoftBank doing investment. And I actually invested in his company when he was an entrepreneur. And then we ended up switching roles, where I became an entrepreneur and he joined New Margin. And New Margin is basically within the top 5 largest venture capital groups in China. Very famous in China, and with a lot of very important connections within mainland China and abroad, actually. So Hans has been an angel investor and probably our biggest supporter. And he's already helped bring in a lot of connections, very valuable connections, including follow-up investors, including the current team in Canada. We also have Michael Koh and SJ Wong, once Singaporean, once Malaysian, also very international in background, both East and the West. And on the Canadian side, we have Robert McMorran, who is the founder of Malaspina with 30 years of public company accounting experience, as well as Gunther, who's originally from Germany and with 15 years of experience in the financial industry. So that's about all I want to talk about for this time, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity to meet you in person. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at kl@hellopal.com or reach out to our team in Canada. Thanks very much for watching.